was pretty depressing. Alright, so this was one of the world's most anticipated movies of the whole year. The original Evil Dead is deservedly one of the most respected horror movies ever made. It's one of my favorite horror movies ever made, probably up there, like in the top 100, maybe 70 to even 50 list of my 100 favorite films of all time. It is absolutely a crazy movie that manages to still be scary. I mean, unlike a lot of still classic horror movies that I love, they don't really hold up as well in the scary department now. Evil Dead is still very scary and just crazy at the same time, along with its sequel, which wasn't, very scary, but it didn't aim to be. It was just awesome and crazy. And the trailer for the remake of this movie, you've all seen it. It looked absolutely insane. Was there one person in the world who wasn't looking forward to this movie after seeing that trailer? You could show anyone that trailer, even if they hated horror movies, if they hated blood, and they'd say, that looks freaking cool. I mean, it was a given that it was gonna be awesome, and unfortunately, it is not awesome. Not at all. We are up for a lot of disappointments if movies turn out to be like this one. God, this was probably one of the biggest disappointments I've ever seen. Now let me say that it wasn't really bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't very good, and especially, I mean, what it could have been and what it looked like it was going to be. It isn't very good, but it's not terrible. And mainly what makes it not terrible are the last 20 minutes of this movie, which I found very, very awesome. I thought that's what the movie looked like it was going to be, and wasn't. The 20 minutes are what you saw in the trailer, and were just really just the insaneness that I was looking for, and actually managed to pull off some great imagery. Unfortunately, the first half of this movie just isn't very good. One of the main complaints that I was hearing before I went to the movie is that the movie doesn't know what it wants to be. It's too relentlessly bloody to really take itself seriously. It doesn't know whether it wants to take itself seriously or be comical. And I thought, I was going to go into it, and if you just ignored that and didn't let that bother you, I thought I was going to enjoy it. Unfortunately, it's pretty hard to ignore that. The original Evil Dead knew what it wanted to be. It really managed to pull off that crazy, scary, and then, comical side, and just somehow balance those perfectly, where this really doesn't manage to, and it doesn't make for a really great experience. It just feels like I'm watching blood all over the place, and it's not very scary in the slightest. First of all, the acting in this movie is really, really bad. I mean, Jane Levy, who plays, the main girl in the movie, she's more of the main character as, her character was in the first one. She's horrible in it, to be honest. She's just really bad, as well as our new Bruce Campbell, who, is all dressed like him. He has the button-down blue shirt on. He's just really bad. Every line he says, it sounds like he's reading off a paper, and he's just not likable. They try to throw in this story with, how the main girl in this, she's his sister. They try to throw in the story where their mother was, insane, and his sister was, on drugs and stuff, and has recently had a drug overdose. It just really doesn't work, and I mean, they try to bring that theme up later in the movie. I don't think it just doesn't work well. And in the original, it kind of just threw it in her face, and I think just made it more scary in the original, how these were just a couple, teenagers. And sure, you can call it cliched, but it just worked better. I don't know how to explain it. It just did, where this story just kind of muddled and was just there and just felt really unnecessary. And after the girl gets possessed and she gets raped by a tree, the movie follows the exact kind of story as the first one. It has a lot of the same lines. She gets locked in the basement and everything. And it tries to copy off of these, lines and stuff and just, awesome moments that were in the original, but it just doesn't work as well. The original had this very just claustrophobic sense to it, and I think with the lack of, visual, at least computerized effects, and how it was just more makeup and just, absolutely crazy, and it had a more kind of down-to-earth feel, might I say, it just came off as more claustrophobic and scary, and just the whole thing of just having these demons just walking around with him, it just pulled it off better. And with this, I don't know, it seemed to focus more on the gore and the blood rather than that actual demonic fucking awesomeness. Sorry if my vocabulary is kind of confusing, but I mean, I'm talking about demons and blood here. I mean, I can't be that articulate. So yeah, after a while, since it just not pulling off these lines and pulling off these moments as good as it did in the original, and just making it kind of boring. I mean, all we want from it more is for it to get bloodier and bloodier, and it does provide a shitload of gore, but that's sad that that was all I was looking for, was it trying to outdo itself with the violence, and not really just not really trying to scare us or freak us out in any other way. It just kind of got just bloody and whatever. I mean, it wasn't, and all those violent scenes that were really creative and awesome were shown in the trailer. And like I said, in the last 20 minutes, it does get better. I actually think it did, like I said, pull off some really great imagery, and that was actually really creepy. And that makes up for it, definitely. I mean, I would use the word really, I would pretty much use the word awesome to describe the last 20 minutes. I mean, it was absolutely insane. That's what I was looking for. Managed to actually scare me. But those first, the first half, for the most part, was just bland and boring and poorly acted, which is why this movie is a failure. I'm going to give this a 5.5 out of 10, maybe a 5. I wouldn't recommend it, and it's just one of the most disappointing movies I've seen in a while. So let's only hope The Purge and The Conjuring are awesome. Yeah, if they're not, I'm going to kill myself.